Hitler's hate, the story of a nation destroyed. One man. One idea. One hatred. And from that hatred came a catastrophe. In the early 20th century, Europe was still rising from the ashes of the Great War. The First World War had ended, but for Germany, peace did not bring dignity. It brought humiliation. The Treaty of Versailles tore the nation's pride to pieces. The economy collapsed. People were hungry. Fear and distrust spread through every street. No one knew who to believe anymore. And in the middle of that despair, a voice rose. A man stood before an angry crowd and shouted, "They stabbed us in the back." He told them the stabbers were the Jews. It wasn't true. But truth no longer mattered. The broken, the poor, the humiliated, they needed someone to blame. And Hitler gave them an enemy. The Jews. That was the moment hatred found its direction. And that direction led to the darkest chapter in human history. Part 2: A Nation Under a Spell. In the 1920s, jazz music filled the clubs of Berlin. But outside the cities, people waited in line for a loaf of bread. Money had lost its meaning. A loaf of bread, 1,000,000 marks. A kilo of meat, a suitcase full of paper. Germany was not only broken economically. It was broken spiritually. In the chaos, Adolf Hitler took control of a small political group. The National Socialist German Workers' Party, the NSDAP. But this was not an ordinary party. It became a movement of faith. When Hitler spoke, crowds stopped breathing. His voice, his rage, his rhythm, hypnotic. He wasn't a politician anymore. He was a prophet of vengeance. Hatred became organized. Jews were no longer different. They were now dangerous. Newspapers preached the purity of the Aryan race. Films portrayed Jews as parasites. Schools taught children a simple lesson. You are superior. They are not. And by 1933, when Hitler rose to power, that lesson had become the law of the land. Germany had fallen into a trance. A dream that would soon turn into a nightmare. Part 3: Laws of Hate. Hitler began not with bullets, but with laws. The Nuremberg Laws. With one signature, Jews ceased to be citizens. Their marriages were void. Their businesses seized. Their names erased from public life. The destruction of a person begins on paper and ends in the streets. In 1938, the night sky of Germany burned. Thousands of synagogues were set on fire. Jewish shops were smashed. The streets glittered with broken glass. And that night was called Kristallnacht. From that night on, no one in Germany slept the same again. The propaganda grew louder. The message was everywhere. Germany must be cleansed. And no one dared ask what that really meant. Part 4: The Trains. War had returned. And with it, the trains of death. The Jews were gathered. First into ghettos, then onto trains. No one knew exactly where they were going. But everyone feared they knew. The wagons were dark. Sealed. Packed with bodies and breath. Many died before they even arrived. Those who survived the journey faced the camps. Auschwitz. Treblinka. Sobibor. From the outside, they looked like labor camps. But inside, a machine of death was running. Cold, precise, industrial. People were no longer names, but numbers. Children were torn from their mothers. Old men stripped naked before they even knew why. And everything ran efficiently. Like a factory. A factory of death. Part 5: The Silent Witnesses. While the chimneys of Auschwitz filled the sky with smoke, the world remained silent. Britain. America. The Soviets. They all heard the rumors. But no one believed them. Or maybe, no one wanted to. That smoke was the cry of millions. The last breath of a mother. The final prayer of a child. People died standing in line. Some in gas chambers. Some of hunger. And many from the slow erosion of hope. And the most tragic of all. Some still believed. Believed that Hitler was winning. Believed that what they were doing had meaning. Part 6: The beginning of the end. The war was almost over. Soviet soldiers entered Berlin. And deep underground, in a cold bunker, Hitler hid. The darkness he had unleashed now swallowed him whole. Millions were dead. Yet he felt no remorse. On his final day, he looked in the mirror. And saw not a monster, but a savior. Then, he pulled the trigger. The war was over. But the names of the dead were endless. Lists, ledgers, numbers. A funeral record of humanity itself. Part 7: To Remember. When the camps were finally discovered, the world froze in disbelief. Piles of bodies. Skeletons barely alive. Walls scratched with final words. Some of them said only one word. Mother. Hitler was gone. But his hatred remained. The Holocaust was not only the destruction of a people. It was the murder of human conscience itself. That is why remembering is a duty. Forgetting is a betrayal. Never again. It must not be a wish. It must be a vow. Because when history is forgotten, it repeats itself.